welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. Hope you guys have been having a great week so far and are looking forward to another fun but quick crochet project. And this week we are working on this vintage inspired ear warmer that is a no messy hair application, or that has a no messy hair application. And I'm excited to get this out there because I think, especially in the wintertime, you know, if you're not necessarily a hat person, but you want to keep your ears warm, you know, the traditional crocheted or knit ear warmer still has to be pulled over your hair or over your head. And the main thing is to try and not mess your hair. And actually, I came up with another design last year with the braided ear warmer, and I'll put a link for that in the description box down below as well in case you're curious. It's also super easy and very quick. And this one, you can whip up several of these. It's lickety split quick and fairly easy to do. We're using the linked double crochet stitch, which if you have started working on the loops and arrows throw, you will be very good at this stitch. And of course, I will leave a link below to all of those tutorials where I have used this stitch as well. And other tutorials where I've also used this yarn. You may remember last year we did the messy bun bobble hat. And of course that one, as the name suggests, it is the messy hair hat. So it's a good one for that. And most recently I used this yarn to create the SNUGGLY slippers. And that's been quite a popular tutorial as well. And now this yarn was gifted to me, which I'll explain to you when we go over the materials. But I did love the color and I just had some left to create this ear warmer. So let's get right to it. Let's get all of our materials together and let's get stitching up our non-messy hair vintage inspired ear warmer. Okay, so let's get started. What you're going to need for this project is any medium weight size 4 yarn. You could use a bulky if you like, but I chose to use a medium weight size 4. And the yarn I have here is by Loops and Threads. It's RingSpun. I don't know if you can find this anymore. I was actually gifted this yarn. It came out probably about 2 seasons ago. So you might be able to find it online, although I have not found it on Amazon myself. But in any case, a medium weight size 4 yarn is good enough. In this one, there's 159 yards or 145 meters, and it's 100 grams in total. You will not need the whole thing for your ear warmer. So if you've got some scraps lying around, that might be a good opportunity to use it up, okay? And the hook that I'm using for this project is a 5.5 millimeter hook, which is also known as an I or a size 9. Make sure you have a pair of scissors and a trusty darning needle to sew in any ends at the end, and you will need a hair elastic to fasten this ear warmer on, or you can also use a clip if you like, but I chose to use a hair elastic, which you'll see at the very end. So let's get started. To begin, we're going to start by placing a slip knot on our hook. Just like that, okay? And then you are going to chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find that very first chain, and into that chain we are going to place 2 more double crochets. So 3 of these chains are going to count as a double crochet. So I'll yarn over, and into that very first chain, I'm going to pull up a loop and then resolve a double crochet. Okay, and then I'm going to place 1 more. Just like that. Okay, so now you have what looks like a little upside down triangle, and that is one of the tips of our ear warmer. So that is row 1 complete. Now to go on to row 2, what you want to do is you want to chain 3 and turn your work. And now what we want to remember for these first few rows is that your first stitch and your last stitch will get an increase in it to continue creating that pointed shape that we have on each end. So This chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and right back into the stitch it comes out of right there, we're going to place another double crochet in there. So that is an increase stitch because we're increasing the number of stitches, just like that. Into the next stitch, we're only going to place one double crochet. That's in the center of our 3 stitches from the row below. And now we've come to the last stitch, which is actually the top of our chain 3 in that first row. So into that chain, and if you have a hard time finding it, just turn your work over and see there's the top of it right there. You're going to place 2 double crochets into that chain to create our last increase. So we have an increase at the beginning and one at the end. Okay, so just like that. Okay, so row 1 had 3 stitches. Row 2 will now have 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for these first few rows, you're going to be increasing the number of stitches by 2 for each row. So let's move on to row 3. For row 3, you will begin again by chaining 3. Turn your work, and remember we increase right away in the first stitch. So you place a double crochet right into that first stitch. And now into each of the next 3 stitches, you're going to place just 1 double crochet. So you're just working your way across. 1 double crochet and 1 more. Now be careful because sometimes people think that that is the last stitch. It is not. Remember, we've got our chain 3 here. The top of that chain 3 is actually the last stitch of that row. So we've got 1 double crochet, and now into the top of the chain 3, we're going to place our last increase, which is 2 double crochet stitches. Okay, just like that. So there's 1, and then we place 1 more back into that same stitch. Okay, now you can really see that that point is really forming. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches at the end of row 3. Moving on to row 4, you will chain 3 again. Turn your work, and you're going to do the exact same thing. So you'll place an increase at the beginning. Then into each of the next few stitches, you're going to place 1 double crochet. You're going to go all the way to the end, and remember at the end, that chain 3, it's going to get 2 double crochets. So the end of round 4, you will have 9 stitches. So you're going to keep repeating this until you have completed row 6. Okay, so at the end of row 4, we will have 9 stitches. At the end of row 5, you will have 11 stitches. And at the end of row 6, you will have 13 stitches across. So once you've completed row 6, I'll meet back up with you to talk about creating the length of our ear warmer. Okay, I've completed row 6 and I have 13 stitches across. Now, if you are using bulky yarn, you will probably need less rows to get the width across. Now, I like 13 stitches because it covers my ear nicely. If you want to make yours 15 stitches, you can certainly do that if you're using the medium weight 4. Just depends on how much coverage around your head beyond the ear that you want. If you're using a lighter weight yarn like a lightweight 3, then you're definitely going to have to do more rows. So that's just kind of the way it goes depending on the weight of your yarn. So now we're going to go on to row number 7, and this is going to be the repeat that's going to create the length of your ear warmer to go around your head. And this is where we jump into using the linked double crochet stitch. So this is really great for ear warmers, especially because it just creates a little bit more of a denser fabric. Okay, so here we go. So to begin row 7 in every row for your length, you will start by chaining 1. You'll turn your work, And then right back into that very first stitch, you'll place a single crochet stitch. And now what I'm going to create here is what I call a self-contained double crochet. That means we're going to create the height of a double crochet without using our typical chain 3 or chain 2. So once you've done your single crochet, what you're going to do is you're going to take your hook and place it inside that left leg there, that little loop that sits there, of your single crochet. See that? Then you'll pull up a loop. And now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 with that loop. You still have 2 loops. And now yarn over and pull through 2. Okay? And there you've got the height of your double crochet. Now some of you may have seen me do this for some of my other projects along the way. And sometimes I don't necessarily do the chain 1. There's many different ways of creating these self-contained double crochets, I call it. So it's just a matter of what finding works for you. Because we're going to be using the linked double crochet, this for me just made more sense to have a more substantial stitch to work into. So here we go. We're now going to work our linked double crochet stitch. So the idea is to link all of our stitches together. So what you want to do is you want to find that chain 1 that you created right there, and you're going to insert your hook there in order to pull up a loop. Okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to go into the very next stitch and insert your hook into that stitch there and pull up your next loop. Okay? Now you're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2 like you would with a normal double crochet. You'll have 2 loops left. Then you'll yarn over and pull through the last 2. So it'll feel like you resolved a regular double crochet. What you'll notice is that it's going to create this little bar across your stitch, and that bar is what links your current stitch to your previous stitch. You might not quite be able to see it just yet. Let's do that again. So now what you're going to do is every time you see that bar, you're going to insert your hook into that horizontal bar that it's created. You'll pull up your loop from there. Then you'll go into the very next stitch and pull up your next loop. That's what gives you the 3 loops. Then you will resolve your double crochet as usual. See? Now you can see. So that connect the previous one and that bar connect the previous one. We'll do it one more time. So I'm going to insert my hook into that horizontal bar to pull up my first loop. And then I'll go into the next stitch to pull up my next loop. You pull through the first 2, and then you pull through the second 2. There we go. Now you can really see the linked double crochet stitch, and you can see how it creates a much denser fabric. So that's what you're going to do all the way across, and don't forget to place your last stitch in the top of your chain 3. There are no increases in this row. So for row number 7, you will still end up with 13 stitches, okay? So go ahead and finish row number 7, and I'll meet back up with you at the end just to start you off again on the next row. Okay, so there's my second last stitch, and now I've got the top of that chain 3. So I'm still going to insert into the bar there. And then the top of that chain 3 will get my very last stitch. Okay, so there we go. So I've got 13 stitches still, and you can see how that creates a slight difference there. Okay, so now to begin continuous rows, we're going to repeat exactly what we did in row number 7 until you get the length that you desire. Okay, now how you get your length. So for me, you know, my head circumference is an average of 22 inches. So, you know, you can take a measurement or you can just create the length until it wraps around your head. Now, you don't want to count this pointed section because that's the section that we're going to tie or bunch together. You want to basically measure from this point on to create the length and make sure it wraps all the way around your head and can meet with the beginning of this section here. You don't want to count the pointed section. Once you get that length where the final end meets this part right here, then we'll talk about creating the other point, okay? So from now, as always, you're just going to chain 1 and turn your work, okay? Now I had to add on some yarn there, so we'll just ignore those ends there. And as always, you're going to insert right back into that first stitch, single crochet, then you'll go back into that leg, you'll pull up a loop, chain 1, and then resolve those 2 stitches, okay? Don't worry at the beginning that you feel like it might have created a little bump. That will all even out as you go back and forth with each row. Okay, so then to continue with the linked double crochet, you will find that where you chained 1 there, insert your hook, that's where you're going to pull up your first loop. Then you're going to go into the next stitch and pull up your next loop. So if you are a tight crocheter, you really want to be careful that you're not pulling too tightly on that first loop, okay? Because it will create a bunch in your work. Then you resolve your double crochet as usual. And again, you always insert into that horizontal bar to pull up that first loop, and then you go into the next stitch and resolve like a regular double crochet. Okay, so just to kind of show you here, the front of your stitch looks like that, so it's got those bars across, and the back of your stitch looks like that. Okay, so now you can see the bars across this stitch because that's the front of that stitch. And then the back of it looks like that. Okay, so because we keep turning our work, this will be a reversible piece of fabric. So now I'm going to set you loose, put on your favorite Netflix show because you'll be doing a bunch of rows. Create the length that you need, and when you've done that, meet me back here and we will finish off by creating the other point, and we will use decrease stitches to do that. Okay, so I have completed the length that I need. I have done a total of 43 rows. And don't forget that there is going to be a little bit of stretch. If it's a little bit longer, it's not a big deal because of how we're going to fasten this ear warmer. You can actually play with the length a lot. So it's very forgiving, this pattern. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to create the other point. So that's going to mean we are going to now need to decrease down. So I will take you through that now. Okay, so we are going to begin by chaining 1 as usual. We're going to turn our work. But instead of creating that self-contained double crochet, we're just going to go ahead and go into the very next stitch and create our double crochet. So what this is doing, so double crochet, see, normally we have to do a chain 3. We only did a chain 1, and so that counts as a decrease. So that chain 1 just basically melts into this double crochet, so to speak. So this only counts as 1 stitch, and that's how I like to start a decrease row. Okay, and now into each of the next 10 stitches, we're just going to place regular double crochet stitches. So we're not going to worry about doing the linked double crochet. We're just going to yarn over and insert regular double crochet stitches, keeping it nice and easy. Okay, so I've got the end of my row here. I've got 2 stitches left, and my apologies, I believe I said do a double crochet into each of the next 10. It should be the next 9 stitches. You always want to have 2 stitches left over at the end because we're going to decrease that into 1. So what we're going to do now is we're going to begin to place a double crochet into the very next stitch. You'll pull up a loop, you'll yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only, but you do not resolve that stitch. You leave these 2 loops on the hook, you'll yarn over, and now you'll go into your chain 3, the top of your chain 3 there, and you'll do the same thing. You'll pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. Whoops. Okay, so you've got 3 loops left. Now you'll yarn over and pull through all 3. So that decreases these 2 stitches down to 1. So at the end of row 44, which for me it's row 44, I am now going to have 11 stitches. Okay, so I'm decreasing by 2 stitches with every row. So then I'm going to chain 1, I'll turn again. I'm going on to row 45. I've chained 1, and then I'm going to go right ahead into the very next stitch, and I'm going to double crochet. So remember that chain 1 and double crocheting into the next stitch for me will count. See how it's already dipping inwards? That's my first decrease. Then I do the same thing I did in the previous row. I place 1 double crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. Okay, all the way across. So remember, we decreased down to 11 stitches in the previous row. This row, we're going to decrease down to 9 stitches in total. Okay, so I'm going across here. And now I have 2 stitches left. So I have 1 and 2. Remember, these 2 are together. So be careful that you don't look down at these posts because that can be deceiving. Always look at the V's. So you've got 1 and 2 left. We're going to decrease here now. Insert. Start a double crochet, but don't finish it. Yarn over. Go into the next stitch and do the same thing. Okay, and now we'll yarn over and pull through all 2. So at the end of row 45, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. So you see where I'm going here, okay? Then you go down to 7, you'll go down to 5, you'll go down to 3, and you'll go down to 1. So pretty straightforward. Again, chain 1, turn your work. Whoops. And then you always skip this stitch and double crochet into the very next one. Okay, so that's your first decrease. So I think you get the gist of it now. You've got a few more rows, so go ahead and do that. Press pause, and I will meet up with you when you're in your very last row of decreases. That's what's going to create that final point. Okay, so I'm down to my last 3 stitches, so I'm just going to do my usual. I'm going to chain 1, skip that very first stitch, and I'm going to go into the next stitch, and I'm going to decrease into the next stitch as well. So I'm basically stitching 3 stitches together. So right in through there. So you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and chain 1. So that chain 1 just really solidifies your point, and there you have it. So just a little comparison here. You can lay it against the first point that you created, and you see that they're fairly similar. Okay. Now, of course, as you crochet, sometimes you get a little bit more snug with your stitches, but you can always fix that in blocking, but I'm pretty happy with that. There we go. So we have finished our ear warmer, basically. So you're going to just snip off your yarn, okay, and pull it through. And then you're going to weave in your ends, okay? So that's basically it. See how it's just a length that we've created with 2 points at the end. Now, I hope you found this as easy as I said it was going to be. And the beauty, again, of this project is that you can either tie it on your head just like that, right? Now, if you want to be able to tie it and double knot it, obviously you're going to have to create a longer length. Sorry, guys, I should have tied in my ends when I was demonstrating this. Okay, just like that. Okay, and then you can you know, it'll stretch with time. But the whole point here is that it's not going to mess your hairdo, right? So nothing worse than when it's slipping on and off and it creates all that static. So you can tie it, or you can just tie it once if it's secure enough for you. Or the thing that I like to do with mine, which is what gives it that extra vintage look, is I take the 2 points. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let me weave in my ends and I'll be back shortly because this is going to bother me. Hold on. Okay, that's much better. So I've woven in my ends there, and that's basically what your ear warmer looks like. And by the way, if you wanted to do a finishing border, you can. I just didn't feel like it needed it. I think that the link double crochet created this beautiful texture, and I'm pretty happy with that. So to use the hair elastic, what you're going to do is wrap it around your head. And again, perfect because it's not going to disturb the hairdo. And then you just kind of pinch it right at the top. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just happen to be pinching it in the center here. You're going to take your hair elastic and you're just going to secure it like you would a ponytail, basically. Okay. And then you smooth the 2 ends over. And again, you can play with this. You can really pinch it a little bit more, creating that vintage look. And that's basically it. It doesn't ruin your hairdo. And when you want to take it off, the same thing happens. You just take the elastic off, and then you can just literally pull it away from your hair. No static, no messing of the buns. And I think it just came out really great. I love, love, love this design. And I'm really excited that I came up with this idea. I mean, maybe somebody else has come up with it, but I haven't seen it done before. So there you are, guys, the vintage inspired ear warmer. I hope you like it. I really love this one. It's so fun and cute. If you have any questions, make sure to just pop them for me in the comment box down below. I don't think that you will have questions, but you know, maybe if you have any little problems with the increases or decreases, please do ask away. I'm more than happy to help. You can also reach me directly, as you know, at info@crochetcrafty.com. And don't forget to visit me on the website. Sign up for my newsletter. I give away a free written pattern every month, okay? And if you're new here, I invite you to press that subscribe button right here. Come and hang out with me every Wednesday where I upload a brand new tutorial every Wednesday morning. And sometimes I sprinkle in a few bonus videos throughout the month as well. Now, don't forget to come and say hello to me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at The Stitch Sessions. So have an amazing day, everyone. Stay cozy. Happy crocheting. Take very good care of yourselves. And I'll see you guys in the next session. Bye-bye.